Hello and welcome back to another episode of Off the Rock, your weekly rugby breakdown with me, John Ferguson. I'm coming to you today from the studio. No, I'm not. I'm coming to you from my car because rugby never sleeps. And that means even when I'm on my way to work, I have to duck in and to be able to check the pulse of Australian rugby with my main man, Lockie from Scrumbags. Lockie, thanks for coming down to this breakdown of Les Kiss's first ever rugby team announced as Wallabies coach. How exciting!
Mate, we had to jump straight on. We're recording at 3:05. Squad dropped 5 minutes ago. Let's get into it.
Absolutely cannot wait. First thoughts. Wow, ballsy. As you said to me in a message in a nicer way, balls are on the table by Les Kiss. He has left nothing to the imagination. First thoughts there, Lock, because I'm excited.
Matt, I love it. What I've clearly seen is that it's a lot of changes we didn't expect from Kissy. All the chat was Luke and Salakaia-Loto, where does he fit in? Carter Gordon, where does he fit in? Those two key reds aren't even in the matchday squad. So massive changes to start. Miles Amadasero getting the nod to start at tight headlock. Enormous challenge up ahead against Wallabies and that incredibly athletic the Japanese pack. And then even in the back line, like really interesting changes to come off the bench with the potential debut of Isaac Henry. There's no shortage of headlines here, Fergo. Where do you want to start?
I think we'll start up front and work our way down. So Aiden Ross getting his nod at loosehead prop in the number one jersey, and then Miles Amatissera, as you say, for his starting debut in the number five jersey for tight head lock. Declan Meredith retains his spot, so this is the third test in a row that Declan Meredith will play in the number 10 jersey, and he did so again under Schmidt and now Kiss. So that's interesting that that kind of Kiss has rolled on with that particular kind of combo. And then Harry Potter retains his spot after an absolutely great performance, particularly aerially, actually, and also with ball in hand. Against the Italians, so he retains his spot. Hunter Paisami was always going to come in. That was kind of the next cab off the rank as far as experience goes, and you've only got Isaac Henry, who's an uncapped, debutant in waiting, who's going to be the other option. So it wasn't too much to think about there. But for those people who are surprised to see Hunter there, I don't think you should be. And then the likes of everything else kind of looks pretty much the same. Really, really exciting to see that Josh Cannon was retained alongside Miles Amatissero. It just says how much he is valuable to that line out for the Wallabies and how he makes sure that that is the part of the game that keeps on humming. Because as you said, against Warner Durns, who was the best lock, let's be honest, in the Super Rugby Pacific, you do not want to be throwing stray darts or making bad calls. And Josh Nasser returns to the throwing stocks. I think that's just because Leskis perhaps feels that perhaps NASA has a truer throw than BPA. I don't think that has anything else to do with anything else. I think BPA has some amazing performances, but I think that's the thinking behind Josh Nasser. Give me your first thoughts there, Locke.
Yeah, interesting parts of continuity with regards to Nasher and Canham. I think you're always going to start one of Canham or Williams just to make sure that the lineout's humming. So really, it was how was Miles injected and how is he considered, if at all, on this tour? Bearing in mind that Lockie Shaw is also available for selection as well. Size matters though, right? And I think Kissy wants to see that. Clearly, he knows how players like Lucan, like Carter Gordon, like Filippo Daugunu, players have been overlooked for this test. He knows how they play. He needs to see these new blokes who he's not familiar with up close and personal. And I think that's the gauntlet that's being thrown down to players like Declan Meredith, players like Miles Adamantacero, saying, show me what you've got. I need to get a good look at you as a coach in charge of your game plan. Can you enact what I give you? So that's going to be really interesting. It's a great show of trust as well. And like we sort of mentioned off the top, big nuts, big gamble from Kissy. You love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know what? He's definitely a fighter. He's an intense character, and I really like to see that he's really put the pedal to the metal and he's absolutely doing some things that perhaps some people didn't think that he would do. I wrote a piece and I'll chuck it up here as well as in the description below. Yesterday came out today, this morning, about that the fact that Les Kiss is going to have to rotate if he wants a World Cup squad that he can trust across the 33 players that get picked in that squad, most likely, and perhaps it's 32. And then of course it has to be also the main man, what's his name? All the way up to 40 players to be able to actually make that a proper deep squad that he can call on when injuries inevitably happen. And the main man in this situation is Declan Meredith. And I think that this is really, really cool to be able to see that he's going to get this opportunity. But I'm also just aware that are we burying perhaps into a player that perhaps may not even be playing in the World Cup?
Well, I think this is the challenge, right? Les needs to know and know quickly. What has he got? I think it's a 12 test run in to the World Cup, if that. So time is at a premium. I don't think he would be giving Meredith the keys if he didn't think it was worth seeing what he can do in that position under his leadership rather than under Schmidt. I can foresee a lot of changes if this game doesn't go exactly to plan. But it's a trial by fire kind of process, I think. And what better place to do it against a really high skilled up tempo team like Japan?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Japan are doing some really, really good things and they've changed the way that they're playing. So I don't want people to think that they're just this crazy ruck speed defense, ruck speed attack rather than they were during the 2019 World Cup. They have changed their tactics now on Eddie Jones and they are kicking a lot of ball. So that's probably why the likes of Harry Potter has been retained, who we know was brilliant under the aerial game, under the air ball in the air against Italy here in Australia for their last test in July under Schmidt. And we know that Max Jorgensen can get up in the air, but I think that's a part of the game that I'm really waiting for him to truly be able to explode and accelerate and excel at because it just has been a little bit too poor for a little bit too long for the young gun. Absolutely amazing with ball in hand, but we need to start seeing a more rounded game from him. Miles Amatisero, this is going to be a game to show whether he can, one, boss the contact, but also whether he can well and truly play at a test match level. And he could really, realistically, he could go for 80. He might have to go for 80 here. And in hot conditions in Japan, it's going to be an absolutely awesome test for the young gun.
Yeah, massive. And what a test also for Charlie Cale, thrown back in the mix after 2 years in the wilderness. He's had a terrible run with injuries. Like, we'll get to Zachy Henry, but it also feels like another debut in a sense for Charlie Cale because he's been out of the picture so long. That star boy of 2 seasons past now gets a fresh opportunity. And this is exactly the kind of environment where you want to see him popping up in the 15s, making the most of his speed. His prowess at line out off the bench is going to be so important as well, given the makeup of the back row that we're seeing really gel under Schmidt and now Kiss. It seems as like that Valentini McWright Wilson is the go-to. So what is your secondary line-out option off the bench? None better than Charlie Cale for foot speed and getting up into the air.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Cale is such an exciting prospect, and we know that he's talked about adding a little bit more bulk to himself, adding a bit more weight, adding a little bit more abrasiveness. There's a lot of people who say, like, oh, I don't want him to add weight because I don't want him to lose that X factor speed that he has. But I think inevitably we just need to be able to see, particularly against this Japan pack, which is one of the lighter packs in World Rugby. He really does need to be able to assert himself physically, and he needs to be able to get through the shitters, so to say, be able to get through the tough stuff in the 5 meter channels, right there, 5 meters away from the line. Can he pick and drive? Can he be able to dominate? He doesn't have to go, just over every single player, just like Josh Van der Fleer. He cut us up because he was smart and he took good angles and he was able to carve us up that way. We just have to be able to see enough out of Charlie Cale to be like, oh, okay, in an instant where we still require some grunt to get done and we need to rotate and we've lost someone like a Valentini or Wilson early, can we rely on Canham at the test level to be able to do those things? I think we just need to be able to see a little bit more from him in that aspect. I'm so excited to see him. And I think with Les Kiss's attack, which I did a massive review on, a preview of rather, if they do attack that way, I do think it's really, really exciting to be able to see the speed and the talents of Charlie Cale, Josh Canham used in the wider channels. But I think that inevitably test match rugby is won in the hard, gritty stuff, and we just need to see that from him.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's also a great opportunity to see the impact that someone like an Angus Bell can have off the bench. And like, I really like the makeup of that reserve front row. Like Pollard, Bell, Tupou, massive ball running priority forwards. Obviously, they do the set piece well, but that's where I think all three of them really shine individually. And what a fantastic trio to be able to bring on 45, 50 minutes in, give them a really good run in the heat, and continue to apply pressure, not being reactive with your bench, but actually dictating terms of the game. I think this is the kind of bench that lends itself to dictate terms.
Absolutely. No, I think he has good experience. You look at that bench, and it's actually Billy Pollard's first cap of 2026, not played under Schmidt at all. And so super, super exciting to be able, like in this year, that is, this last three tests, really, really exciting to be able to see what kind of impact Billy Pollard will add. Because much like Charlie Cale, he is extremely fleet-footed, very, very powerful, has that speed to burn if he gets into a wider channel. It's just going to be super, super exciting to see whether Billy Pollard can again just nail nail his basics. Like, I know that all these players on here are actually really exciting, but we need these players to nail their basics, and that's the stand we have to hold them to. So, will that line out continue to hum when Josh Nasser inevitably goes off and Billy Pollard comes on? Can he nail his throw? Because I think that's been the biggest critique of his game, and something that a lot of people have said that he needs to nail before he gets back in the starting 15. Not there yet. On the reserve bench, super exciting to see him in because I think he's a great talent in the shape of Dan Coles or a Dan Sheehan. But again, just the basics. We just need them to do the basics super, super well, as well as adding their unique talents. If you go down further down the bench, Angus Bell and Talion Tupo, that's a bomb squad front row alongside Billy Pollard. Jeremy Williams, we know that he's now a test level lock, and he does extremely, extremely well. And I think people often forget that he's the second best game line carrier in the Super Rugby Pacific. It's term of locks. That's outside of Lukan Salakaia-Loto for this year in 2026. So he adds a lot of punch as well off the pine. It's not just grunt work and laboring behind clearing rocks and that kind of thing that Jeremy Williams will get through. It's super super exciting. Tate McDermott gets another chance to be able to prove that he's a game driver now. We just got to see that. We can't have the Wallabies drop off when he comes on and when the rest of the subs roll on. That's a thing that we really got to watch for. And I think, why don't you round us off on the players? So you touch on your boy Isaac Henry, and then we'll go on to kind of what we need to see from the Wallabies here.
Yeah, for sure. A very quick wrap on Isaac Henry for those who aren't familiar. One of the worst runs with injuries we've seen in professional rugby. He made his breakout sort of season during the COVID affected Super Rugby Oz. I want to say back in 2021, maybe even 2021 Trans Tasman after the Reds got up. He had a fantastic game against the Chiefs in Townsville. Multiple hamstring injuries, ruptured patella tendon. He's been through the absolute ringer, Fergo. So now he's finally been able to hit back through his straps and Reds. He is a versatile player that can cover center, both centers and wing, and he kicks goals incredibly accurately. So a great option to have in and around the mix as well. I'm just so excited for them. He's still very much a young buck in his mid-20s. He's got a lot to offer, really physical, and a great foil for Hunter Paisami.
Yeah, I think Hunter Paisami and Isaac Henry are probably two of the most similar centers that Australia have in their terms of skill set, build, and also physical ability. So it'll be very much like for like when you're getting with your raw materials. Obviously, Hunter wildly more experienced, but I'm very very excited to see if he does get on for to become a Wallaby, and also we're getting closer to that Wallaby 1000 number. So that's pretty huge. But we'll touch on that maybe after we get these caps done, if he does indeed get to go on. Style wise, I have outlined at length two episodes. Go back and watch. Oh no, sorry, one episode at length, 50 minutes solo, just going through what I expect to see from the defense and the attack. In the attack, I expect to see swinging backline players. I expect to see stacked attack players. It's really, really exciting when you've got players like Joseph Fukuso, Suoli'i, Max Jorgensen, Harry Potter, players who are elite, quick with a decent step and can maintain speed on a curved line. Super, super exciting. The kicking game, not really sure what to expect here because I haven't been ultimately too impressed with the Reds attacking game. So I'm not really sure what Kissy's kind of thinking in that space. And I assume that's an area that he's having control over. But in defense, I'm expecting physicality, big hits, and counter rucking. That's really, really what I'm excited to see. And that speaks to the things that I mentioned in that review video and what's been said in press conferences. What are you hoping to see from the Wallabies here? Because apart from obviously having a crack, which I think is Les Kiss's mantra, full stop, it's very Michael Chekarov and very Aussie of him. But what are you hoping to see from Les Kiss's Wallabies in their first test under him?
It might sound blasphemous, Fergo, but I would love to see Ryan Lonergan play 80. I would really like to see a game driver, especially a dominant kicking nine, inside Declan Meredith to stick around and see out a game. We've seen players like Jake Gordon, Tate McDermott, all these players have had their chance with a longer stint. Let's see Lonergan, if he is playing well and if he is able to see out a game. That would be my headline act from this. Of course, the fairy tale in me wants to see Isaac Henry involved, but the kicking, as you mentioned, does concern me. Meredith's a bit more of a pop gun, and Tom Wright, a decent kicker without being outstanding. So I do fear a little bit on how we can exit and how we can manipulate Japan around the field. But as far as attacking weapons, I'm really excited with what this backline can put together. And seeing Hunter Paisami with another chance, wonderful to see.
No, well, I'm so excited. We haven't got the Japanese side yet. Eddie Jones, I'm sure will cook up a bunch of Aussies as well as some great Japanese talent in that side. Super, super exciting.
G'day.
just a quick break in the sending. Sorry that I had to make that episode. I just wanted to get Lockie's reaction straight off the press when we got the teams announced. And now I'm back in my usual spot, being able to record this little piece for you here. Okay, so now we do have the Japanese side. I'm just going to go through it. And although there are some really, really pacey wingers on the edges, and obviously huge experience at number 9 with Naoto Saito there, who has actually had a stint at Toulouse. Imagine being a 9 playing at Toulouse and then being able to learn alongside Antoine Dupont. Absolutely stellar there. It is a big second row with Warner Dearns and Jack Cornelison. So, trouble at line out for the Wallabies, trouble in the physicality area. And I think that's really, really interesting because they've got Harry Hockings and Michael Leach on the bench as well. So I think, no Sam Green. There was speculation whether he would be playing. He's not playing, but definitely a lot of horsepower there from the second row for Harry Hockings, Warner Dearns, Michael Leach being able to come into the back row as well. Great experience off the bench, but also some really, really exciting play. The work's going to be cut out for the likes of Miles Amatosero to begin with, going head to head against Warner Dearns, and of course, going to be a big step up in competition for Jeremy Williams. Harry Hockings has been the center of discussion for a lot of people when they've been talking about who have the Wallabies been allowed to let go overseas and lost talent, etc., etc. This is going to be a really, really interesting litmus test, more so for Harry Hockings than anyone else. Harry Hockings, 28-year-old, was playing for Queensland Reds, didn't want to take a pay cut during COVID times, went overseas. Entirely his prerogative. Never judge an athlete to be able to do what they want to do for their career or their life choices, whatever. But now he's 28. He should be, nearing the height of his powers at 28 years old, getting into those like early 30s, getting that 30 years old. Our locks, super young. Josh Canham, early 20s. Jeremy Williams, 26. Miles Amatosero, 23 years old. So really, really 23 or 24. Really, really interesting to be able to see how the physicality battle and the technical aspects of the game goes, especially against Warner Dearns and Harry Hockings, more so to be able to understand those comparisons. So the Japan side, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be kicking a lot. Harry Potter was chosen for that reason. Really, really interesting to be able to combat that. Great, great, great continuity in that aspect. Interesting to not see Dylan Peach in the side. What I would like to see from the Wallabies, though, here, and it's something that Les Kiss will touch on, which I'm actually going to throw. I'm going to give you the last answer that he gave at the press conference. It's a super short answer, but really, really telling about the way that he wants to play. But the Wallabies need to make sure that they get their kicking game and their kick return game under absolute wraps and nail that aspect of it. Not escorting, just being able to create a safety net of players around the person, catching the ball in the backfield, being able to secure that rock, and then to be able to set phase and to be able to go again. Now, what's really, really interesting about what Les Kiss says in this next little bit of a presser, which I'll leave you on, is that the physicality battle is a really, really big emphasis for Les Kiss. He's spoken on several occasions about the need to be able to shore up the tight head lock stocks. He mentions it here as well. And Miles Amatosero is going to be a very, very crucial part about this. Les Kiss wants to go through sides. He wants to pick big bully boys to be able to muscle over oppositions, whether it's scrum, ruck, maul, carry, defense, whatever. And Miles has understood that, that assignment. And then vice versa, or conversely, they're going to need someone like Charlie Cale, who Les Kiss mentions as well in this little in this snippet about the speed that he needs to add to the game. And I think that's particularly on that edge attack that I explained, that I had a premonition or a hunch about, and also in that transition. When the Wallabies get a turnover via counter rock, which is what I'm guessing, or whether it's a pilfer, they need to add speed going forward. Forward is the word that Les Kiss and Jonathan Fisher have used. So very, very exciting there. Let's see what they actually happens and what they actually do, and I'll be able to go excuse me, full review, full analytical on that in the review episode, which I'll release on Monday because Sunday I have some personal commitments, but on Monday. So it'll be really, really interesting to see. But Charlie Cale is going to be a crucial part of that puzzle when it comes to being able to do that counter attack, just like Miles Amatosero is going to be a very crucial aspect of the team to be able to get that confrontational aspect sound and humming and going forward. Their word, not mine. Lastly, Aiden Ross. This is really one of his few opportunities that he's gotten. He's got to convince at the scrum. He's got to convince with the carry. He's got to convince in defense. We can't be lugging around someone with the James Slipper profile without the amount of experience that he has. So big eyes on Aiden Ross. All eyes on Miles Amatisero, Harry Potter, Charlie Cale, Declan Meredith, and let's see what we can get out of our halves as far as game driving goes. Very, very exciting. I cannot wait.
It's really interesting when we went through their team, your team, the Japanese team. There is a real emphasis that they play with Dern's hocking, very powerful for them. I think that thrust they have through them in the middle gives their nice little halves some really good footy. Their back three is very, very fast as well, but if we can manage that forward pack well, the tight five, I think we can quell that speed that they do have on the edge. But those two have been very much the focus that we've looked at in terms of trying to stop the momentum that they can get. We need to be direct and physical. You know, I mean, there's it'll be slippery conditions. That will give a type of a transition game. If we loosen that area, it can hurt us. So we need Miles in a tight five to be very solid about how we set the platform. And him being the tight head lock, that's a big responsibility. And the part that he plays in that, he's been impressive. You can see he wants to get physical, even in training. So he's got to be able to set that platform in a, aggressive and disciplined way. We need to match that. They've been pretty good up front this year, the Japanese team, and he's part of that mix in that tight five to do that. He knows he's got a back row behind him that are pretty fast and pretty clever themselves. So focus on getting that middle of the game right, and he's central to that. That's for sure.
Lockie, give me a prediction before we say farewell on this very, very ad hoc, non-normal car studio version of Off the Ruck preview for the Wallabies. Of course, we'll have a massive review afterwards, but now for the preview, what are you expecting? Give me the predicted score in Osaka, where it will be absolutely steaming hot.
I think the conditions mean errors. Errors means lower scoring game in my book. I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar to the last game. That was 19-15. I'm going to predict 24-16 in the favour of the Wallabies. What about you?
Yeah, with the three changes in the starting 15, so the Ross, Amatisero, and Nasa, of course, and Hunter Paisami, so kind of four there. I'm going to say that that's going to cause big disruption in our attack, as well as the new system. So I don't think the Wallabies will score more than 30 points despite the talent. So I like where you're kind of in that bracket there. And then alongside with like the relatively stable bench, outside of course Charlie Cale and Billy Pollard, I'm going to say that the Wallabies are going to get up. I'm going to say 22-10. I'm going to say that the Japanese are not going to score as many points. Maybe you said 24, right?
I said 24-16, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to say a few less points in it, purely because I think both sides are going to try to feel each other out. But I do think that, Scott McLeod is going to set a new standard of how many points he wants to concede, because I wrote an article earlier last week and kind of said that the Wallabies are conceding, on average 27.5 points. He's going to want to get that down, way, way down. And the Wallabies are scoring 25 points per game. So Scott McLeod will want to make sure that this game starts with conceding as few points as possible. And I'm sure Les Kiss will be along kind of that thinking as well. But this is just the start of the discussion. We've got all this time to chat before we get to the game night in Osaka, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Time on Saturday. So please join us in the description below. Chat to us there. Message us on social media. Don't forget to check out Lockie's stuff on Scrum Bags. That's on Instagram, as well as all your pod platforms, and of course on YouTube. And we'll be back with you. Well, I will definitely be back with you reviewing the game as soon as it's finished on Saturday night. So join me then, and then I will be able to bring you more analysis throughout the week afterwards, before the next game against the Japanese rather, in Townsville the week after. So until then, enjoy your rugby, enjoy your week, and then see you for the review. Ciao for now.